Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Life Talks. Today I have an old friend of mine, Nart Gokeh, on. Nart, thanks for joining me.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me, bro. It's been a long time.
Yeah, dude. I saw that and you have it on your title, MMA fighter. We have it. We started. We were just talking off camera, and I'm like, let's just hit record because I know this will be a good conversation. People will get value from. You were talking about, you know, strength, being strong. We met each other in the gym a while back. Younger days. Maybe if you could start there, like your transition from like what does it mean to be a strong man? Something that I often ask guests. And tying that into your journey with MMA.
Oh, well, being a strong man, I think it
Heavy
all starts
question.
mental. Yeah, it's a really heavy question, but it definitely starts like on what's like up here, like what's in the head. I think you have to be very opinionated to be a strong man, and you have to be able to back it up too. So, in order to be a strong man, you being a strong man also entails that you have a good handle on your emotions. Not to be emotionless, but to have a good handle on them. A lot of us, like when we're growing up, like as kids, growing into manhood, um, we start like we think like being angry and like lashing out is the answer for strength. You know what I mean? Like when things don't go our way, that's just how we react. That's how I used to react when I was a little teenager.
Yep.
I was a little. I was a little rampant sometimes, but as you grow older, you learn from those mistakes, and you start to see that the more you think, the more people have differing opinions with you, and that's when you really start to show your manhood. Is when somebody stands with a different opinion across from you, but you know how to handle it and retaliate it, express your own opinion without taking offense or being offended, and being able more so just to back yourself up. And I know back yourself up, the underlying meaning is to be violent, but like yeah, like as men we do need to have that within us a little bit, you know? But that's like what gives us the confidence to speak our mind clearly and freely and express ourselves correctly. I feel like if you don't have the ability to defend yourself or be the only person that has your back when everybody else is telling you no is or everybody else is against you, it's a very defeating quality to not have, you know.
Yeah, it's something I've reflected on over the past few years. Is just the ability to be, yeah, because otherwise you don't have anything too. You have to be a formidable force. Any good movie with the boss or the leader, he has the ability to he's the strong person. Like he has the ability to wipe anybody out, but he doesn't. He's not driven by his emotions, right? There's that formidable force behind him. Otherwise, you're just if you don't have anything behind that, then it's just people can sense that, and I think that it's a paradox because I know at least for me, I've wrestled with it. It's like that same thing where it's like you want to be the tough guy, you want to be that. That's often a sign of weakness, and usually is a sign of weakness. Uh, like and I think, uh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure a lot of people have this view of MMA and boxing, like it's just like you're just beating people, and I think it's a lot more than that. And I think it just kind of this, it to branch off that same point, that it shows you're showing it's. I asked you about what a strongman is, and you went totally into mental, right? What is the mental aspects of it? And I think that's more important than the physical, and they're one and the same, maybe you could say. Um, how do you well maybe ask that question, how do you deal with, like, how do you wrestle with those emotions? Because I would definitely say I was in the same boat. If I had an issue, I would just freak out or whatever, and as I've gotten older I realized that a really strong man is someone who's at peace, someone who has that clarity, right? You really can't fake presence. um how how have you developed that on your journey? You get an
So
emotion, how do you deal with it? You're angry, how do you deal with it? Like, is it
well, actually, it's funny. When I was younger, I was a lot more emotional. So when I first started, I'd want to say I was a lot more emotional, and that carried on for years. Like I want to say just recently, I kind of not just recent. I want to say in the last 3 years, I kind of got over that. I kind of got over that emotional hump. I've become a lot more objective, where if something bothers me now, it's actually only the little things that bother me now. When big things happen, I just know that they're out of my control. You know,
Mm,
so it's more of like, okay, how do I move on from here? It's no longer, oh, why did this happen? You know what I mean? It's more of a acceptance and move on, because we have to keep moving. You know, we have to find a way through those things that really like weigh us down emotionally. Don't get me wrong. There are certain things that I've seen that you can't just simply move past. Um, like for example, when you see an older brother lose his younger brother. Actually, this happened very recently to a friend of mine. I want to say on Wednesday we had a good friend of mine. His younger brother passed away, and seeing him go through that, the only way to react to that is emotional, you know, because if you think about it, there's a correct time to react emotionally,
mm,
where it's in the sense of, if you never grieve and you never really let yourself feel these overwhelming feelings, you don't have to go out and show the world you're feeling it.
yeah.
No, but you have to embrace that, because it's gonna make you a hollow shell of yourself if you don't. That I believe to be a 100% fact, because emotions are a part of humanity, but they don't drive humanity. Keeping a strong mental when things don't go my way, where I don't react that way. When I was younger, I would get so furious, because growing up in America with a name like Nart, it's a little rough, man. Because all the nursery rhymes start coming out, and they're not the cute ones either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so I used to get very mad, but then I'd start having arguments. Like, you know, when you get mad at your brothers, and you don't always have to fist fight your brothers, and you don't always fist fight your brothers whenever you get mad at each other, right? So eventually, there's going to be a talking ground, and through that talking ground, I've realized, you know what? Like, I can handle my quarrels, my problems with anyone, not just my brothers, with anyone, just by simply talking to them. And I always like to let my mouth do the problem solving first, because I know what comes out of my head is going to be reasonable for both parties. I know when something doesn't go my way or something gets me really mad, as long as I can talk about it at whatever it might be that has gotten me mad, or whoever it might be, um, then I'm pretty much at peace. Like, I kind of give myself that peace just by conversing it. But yeah, that's really about it. There's not really many things that make me emotionally like emotionally just outburst. There's nothing that really does that to me anymore. It took a long time to get past that, but I can thankfully say I believe I did get past that.
Would you say, well, I mean, I always say that working out is such a great way to deal with your emotions. That mental, I don't want to do this. Let's do it. Right. So like you have to confront yourself when you're lifting the weights. I don't want to work out. I don't want to run. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna work out. You're confronting your emotions are saying, no, I want to stay, I want to relax, I want to wind down, why am I doing this? So it's meeting, I think in the same way it rhymes working out, you're meeting the weak part of yourself, which I would say is the blind emotion. And I definitely receive your point with the with expressing emotion at the right time. This idea, because I think a strong man knows when to express his emotions, right? There's a time and a place, and you nailed it. I think when you said the driving, we're not driven, but when we're driven by our emotions, we're a weak man. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely believe that. But otherwise, you're a robot if you have no emotion. So I definitely agree. But
Yeah,
how has maybe working out, because we met when we were working out, how has that helped with that, or and how has MMA helped with that, and has it been like dramatic, like I love the mentality of the fighter. I mean, the cliche, I love Rocky, like one of my favorites, man. I could watch that over and over.
everyone does.
Of course, right? It's like that's the American spirit. But like what drives you when you're in a fight? Like what makes you like what how do you tap into part where that part of you
It's kill or be
that
killed.
yeah.
Um, So I don't know if you've ever felt this before, but this is actually something I've actually been like at a personal like crossroads with as of recently because all the way up until now, my fighting it was more based on me proving to everybody that I'm not a failure,
Mm,
you know, and I don't. It's it's more become now to make myself proud, but what ignites that fire in me and makes me want to get in there and like lock my. I always say like when I get in there, I'm not locked in with them; they're locked in with me, and everything is in my control because it's all based on my work. I believe I have all the gifts, so I go in there and I have to just act right. But what really drives my urge to go in there and really like put on the show, it's more focus based. So it's more along the lines of two things because I felt weak in two areas of my life before where I felt one, I'm not a failure. That's one thing I'm going to prove when I go in there. Whether I win or lose, I'm not a failure because my hard work is going to show. I'm going to go out there and as long as I fight, I can win at the very least. What's the worst that'll happen? I lose a decision. Okay, but you're not going to take me out of there unless it's on a stretcher. And um, the second thing is really I'm the oldest of four boys. So like I'm the oldest in my house and when it comes down to it, I like to think to myself or this is what I used to think to myself a lot. I still think to myself this sometimes. But I always wonder like if your brothers ever needed your help, like who are they going to go to? Okay, they're going to go to me.
oldest
If
brother.
yeah, if like I'm the oldest, so at the end of the day, like if you mess with one of my younger brothers, like you're messing with me, and that's not gonna fly. So are you like I know it's wrong to put it on somebody else, but sometimes I'll look at it as okay if this person was the one who was responsible for my brother, I don't give a shit responsible for like what happened to my brother. Pardon my language, but I don't give a crap like what happened or who that person in the cage is. That person's going down. It does not matter who they are. It does not matter who they are. They have to go because they were responsible for my brother's pain or grief or whatever it might be. They have to go. There, something has to be done about that individual. So sometimes you have to play a little mental trick on yourself. You really have to get yourself fired up. You have to find out what your values are, and then you have to weaponize it because when you go in there, it's not fun. You know, it's fun. Yes, it's really fun. Fighting is some of the best fun I've ever had in my life, especially the journey of it. It's some of the best fun. But the competition is where I shine. It's where I have to shine. It's the competitive scene. The competitive scene can be fun, but it's not as it's more business than it is fun. You know. So I think for me to get myself emotionally riled up, I just highlight two things. One, I'm not a failure because that was the whole point of me starting this. I don't know why I felt like this before. I think it was just more of like a, you know, sometimes a harsh upbringing will do that to you. But like
Yeah.
at the same time, like you know, like
Well,
it, it's become more of I now know I'm not, and I've been known that for a little while. I just yeah, those are really the only two things that move me.
yeah, I think of it like because I think on there's I look at it like three aspects, right? Because we live in a society now where it's all about weakness, right? It's all about instant gratification, and it's so easy to be weak as a man in our society. So to be strong, I think it doesn't honestly take much. And if you really you step in that direction, you can really excel. And um, I also think just as you were speaking, there's kind of three levels. I think of Rocky. He's got a song, some with heart and courage in the song. Um, and I think there's three levels of a fighter. And like push back if you think like, and on the bottom is like, and just in life, and I'm looking this from a mental perspective. Like on the bottom, you have someone who's just always a coward, always running away from any battle in life, right? Someone who just doesn't want any conflict. And I recognize parts of that within me. Anytime any conflict would come in, you spoke up about mental, and I think that's collective as well, right? Anytime we talk about vaccines or masks or any political thing, people can't handle a differing opinion and they freak out, or that they'll lash out, like you were saying, with the emotion, right? They'll get angry, or they'll cower and they'll just avoid it and be passive aggressive and say, I can't believe they're on the left, they're on the right. And then we just don't get anywhere because we're not going through it. And that's where I think the same thing with a fighter. You have someone who's a coward, you have someone who's proud, and then you have someone who has courage. And that to me is like, that's why I fucking love Rocky. I mean, you have the heart of courage, right? He's working out in like the snow. He doesn't have, and then you have the other guy where he's like, he's got the steroids, he's got all this, right? And he's just like a machine. Rocky always pulls out because he's got that heart. He's got that heart. And I mean, that's the difference between, I think what would, and I'm curious about this. It's like, I think a lot of people might look at it from a, maybe not so much the people who are in the arena, but people from the outside perspective, like, why would you want to be fighting another person? I think there's something that's a lost art, that branches off what you said, is that a true man brings conflict to another man. Like if you have a problem with me, like that fighter mentality, you're going to come to me, you're going to speak to me man to man, right? And that I think is like, now it's like everybody can go on social media, they can just gossip or talk shit about somebody. People aren't going to somebody's face. When do you have close relationships with a lot of the fighters? Like, is that something that you have, or is it kind of like dog eat dog?
So actually, it's funny. I typically like whenever I Mikey, like since you've known me, I like as a person, I don't think I've changed much in the way I deal with people. It's more of just like how I deal with my conflicts. As a person, I try to just be a person. I'm a fighter, right? But like fighters are people. You know what I mean? When you go up, when you're in the practice room and you see other fighters and you see other people in your weight class, it can go one of your two ways, right? You can either be look at this person that you're training with as okay, like this is an opportunity to have a good training partner. This is the opportunity to possibly build a friendship, or this is my competition coming up. And if I see him again in the practice room, I'm going to knock him out cold. It goes one of two ways, right? Typically, me, I have yet to feel the urge to actually hurt somebody. I've only really, like, in the practice room, done that on behalf of, like, no respect for the practice room.
Mm,
Um, that's just because, like, if I see someone like when I was younger, when I was 13, I was one of the smallest kids in my school. I was one of the smaller kids in my grade, but thankfully I hit a growth spurt and I worked out a lot and I became the big, tall, strong guy. So in the gym, if I just see somebody who kind of, I'm a very, I live my life very based off of martial arts. I like to live my life as a martial artist. Living as a martial artist entails that you just treat people equally. It's funny. I thought for the longest time martial arts could be a religion. I really did. Like for the longest time. The only thing is that you don't worship anything. It just gives you guidelines for how to live. And when I don't know when I deal with fighters, unless I really have an issue with them, I they'll hear from me before anybody else. I won't tell anyone. I'll more so go to them and be like, hey, like what's the issue, or express what I've heard. Which has thankfully never happened. But um, uh, what I will say is of all my opponents that I had seven, no, 8 fights in total so far. I'm only not friends with one of them.
mm,
There's only one of them I'm not good with, and that's because he didn't show respect after I won.
mm,
And even against the person that I lost one of my fights, and the person that beat me, his name's Dennis. He choked me out. It was a fight that looked like it was going my way, and then all of a sudden the tide turned and he just choked me out. Right in the time, I was very disappointed and very upset, and it was my first fight. It was my first fight, and I lost, and I was like, damn, like I lost. that voice inside of me that was like, you're proving that you're not a loser right now, just screamed you're a loser. You know what I mean? But at the end of it, even after all of that pain and all of that agony, I still said, you know what? Like, he beat me fair and square. He's a man. We're both chasing the same thing. So I gave him my best. We shot messages back and forth with each other. I'm still looking to train with the kid, to be honest,
Yeah.
because he's a very nice, like, as a person, he's just a good dude. And you have to be able to recognize that not all of your opposition is your enemy. Just because they're
Bingo.
opposed to you, they're not your enemy always.
Bingo.
So yeah, typically in the world of martial arts, people do see us as maybe rage monsters or a little bit loose in the head, or maybe we have like these underlying like psychological issues, and maybe all of those things are true, right? But we are still people. The only thing we do different than everybody else is that we're willing to fight. That's it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Yeah. I think yeah, that's powerful shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I hear you speak about this is it just shows that it's. I mean, I just zoom out at it like in the same way that I do with the gym because that's what where I'm at. That's where I learned so much about myself. And in the same way, that's why I reached out to you originally because I'm like, here's a fighter, here's someone who gets what is like the mentality of what I just said politically and you zoom out, people cannot sit with other people. They think that like I got my flag right here, right? This is the United States of America, okay? United. That doesn't mean we're going to agree with everything. It means our ideas have to fight with each other. And that when they fight, that's a good thing. We both win. I want to hear someone who's completely pro abortion fight someone who's completely against abortion. I
Hmm.
want to hear why they believe what they believe. I want to know what are the exceptions, what are the like that's what we need. But now it's just like no, we have to avoid that and we need I think more fighters. So like that's why I'm really interested because I'm sure you would agree. You're nodding your head, right? Like you agree with that, right? Like
Uh, I agree that we need more fighters, but I think you know what we need more. I think we need more than being fighters. I think we just need more perspective. I
mm,
think in general, like if you think about it, when you're arguing with somebody, typically what's the first thing you do? You kind of throw away everything they said, and then you just want to say what you said,
yeah,
what you had in your head. You know what I mean? And like in stating your points, that's okay, but to discard somebody's opinion, even though it doesn't match yours or it's not, anywhere near the realm of yours, it's completely opposite of you. Um, that just shows that you're taking it as personal attack. That shows emotional immaturity to me. You know what I mean? I think more so than being, we need more fighters. Yes, let me just highlight, we do need more fighters in the world. And I'm not saying like MMA. I mean like people who are willing to stand on their
yeah,
shield. Like people who are really to like they're willing to back their opinion up.
mm,
We need more of that. You know what I mean? Because that's I think that's an igniting incident for fighters where it's they've had this massive disagreement with somebody that may have led to a physical altercation and it didn't go their way and they felt really weak and pathetic, and maybe that person that they had that altercation with was not merciful by any means, was somebody who is very demeaning and somebody who really like took advantage of that like physical victory over the altercation that was a completely just a mental disagreement. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I don't know. I do think we need more fighters, that's for sure. Just to have people who are more willing to speak their mind. Because I feel like, yes, there are people who are not fighters that are willing to speak their mind. But if we're going to look at the population between the two, the ones who outweigh the other in population are really the fighters. And I'm not saying they have to be MMA fighters. I'm saying, like, okay, in their head, like, if things go south, they're willing to get up and get ready and get down to business. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, I think it's more perspective thing.
Changing gears a little bit, I'm curious what's been your journey with faith? I'm Christian. I haven't lived in accordance with that. And I think
Mm.
we need more people true to their convictions, regardless of what religion you are. I think that it's important to be the example. And
Mm.
again, speaking for my own religion, there's plenty of people who, talk a good talk. They know Bible verses, but they're not living it. And, I think that could be said for anything. Anybody can post quotes, motivational quotes, but they're not living it. I know that was the case for me, so when you start to really enter the arena, that's what really matters. And I love, I don't know if you're familiar with, I think it was Roosevelt's man in the arena quote.
I,
Oh,
I play that sometimes, just like right, but I play that every fight day, like as I'm getting my hands taped.
awesome.
So it's just it's a very yeah, it's a very yeah, I love that. I love that
Yeah, because you're not
little
you're not
like
a loser
quote
if you're
or
in the
poem if you
arena.
want. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you could lose, but you're ahead of most people for being in there.
The worst day in the arena is is better than the best day in the stands. You know,
Love it.
so
Exactly.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, but I don't even know where I was going with that.
You were talking about faith, like where I
Yeah.
am
So where?
faith
Yeah, yeah,
wise.
yeah. So what is your view on faith, religion? Where are you at in your life? How has that driven you with MMA? Just
So I'm actually so I'm a Muslim. It's actually Ramadan right now. Ramadan Kareem to all the Muslim people listening right now. But I'm yeah actually Islam it kind of makes me shy away from wanting to hurt people because I don't know. I myself have not been a very good Muslim in the last few years, if I'm going to be honest with you, and that's between me and God. I'll say that openly, but that's between me and God. You know, the thing is Islam is a very it's a very masculine religion. It actually encourages men to be men. Actually, wrestling is considered good deeds in Islam. So,
mm,
like the sport of wrestling, it's considered good deeds in Islam. It's encouraged to teach your children how to, your boys specifically, how to defend themselves, and it also encourages to teach women how to be women. You know, and spiritually speaking, in the last year and a half, I've actually not in the last year and a half. Yeah, in the last year and a half, actually, yeah, since mid 2022, since August 2022, I want to say I've had a spiritual awakening. Funny enough, I look, I'm ashamed to say this, but I felt like so I was an atheist for a little bit. I was an atheist for a little while. I had no belief in God, and that wasn't correct. I was more just. It wasn't that it wasn't correct. I just knew there was an emptiness I had when I believed there was no such thing as God. I just felt this overwhelming emptiness, and
yeah, I filled that emptiness with girls. It didn't work out.
yeah, you know, like you fill it with anything, or you try and fill it
Attention and
with
it. Yep.
anything, attention, drugs, you know, like you fill it with whatever you can, and you can't. It's so funny story. All the way up to my third fight, I was walking out from my third fight, and I'm fighting actually a now good friend of mine. His name's Jason Downer. He and I had a war. We went to war, right? And I'm walking out, and I knew that this was going to be a crazy fight because all of his fights he was 3-3, but he's never seen the end of a fight before. He was 3-3, three KOs and three KO losses, right? So I was like, okay, this is gonna go one of two ways. I'm getting out on the stretcher, or he is. It's one of the two. There's no other way. I was like, so like when you know this, it's a little nerve wracking. And I was only on my third fight. This guy has 6 fights in total. He has 6 fights of experience over me, and I was like, damn. And then you look at the build on this guy at the weigh-ins, and you're like, oh my god, it's actually so funny. Me and my teammates, like, on that day of weigh-ins, we went back to the hotel room, right? So there was a girl with us who was 115, I believe, and at the time we had a friend of mine who was fighting 125 pounds, and we had a teammate of mine who was a heavyweight and fighting 265, right? So my teammate who was fighting at heavyweight, he fought a guy that was built like Patrick Starr. You know in the Fry Cook games when he puts the cone on and he does the ice
Yeah.
cream dive. He fought a guy literally like that. He finished him in 12 seconds because the fight started literally with the guy running away and he just chased him down and just choked him. The other two, it was a more competitive fight, but we got back to the hotel and we're all talking about each other's matchups. And the girl's like, "Yeah, I think my matchup is pretty solid. Like I'm gonna win for sure." And the other kid, uh, the 25er, is like, "Yeah, same here. I think I'm built to destroy this guy." And my friend, my heavyweight friend, is like, "Yeah, my guy, he looks like a marshmallow. I'm gonna destroy him." And then they all look at me and they go, "Yeah." And then they stop. They just stop talking. And I was like, "All right, guys. Well, thanks for the vote of confidence. I'm gonna go chill in the pool now until it's time to eat."
Oh man.
So right as I'm walking out for that fight, I make my way to the arena, and I still called myself an atheist at this point.
Mm,
I was like, I'm an atheist. Like there is no such thing as God. Everything is in my hands. That's it. Why believe in God when I could believe in myself? That's what I said, right? So I was walking out and I was like, damn, like I always have this saying where it's to the death. Like if you love something, you'll do it to the death.
mm,
There will be nothing that'll stop you. You will sacrifice any and everything to do it if you really want to do it.
yeah.
And I'm walking out and I'm like, wow, it's getting like, you're walking out to the arena, you're getting a little more confident, a little more confident. Well, I was at least. And then I'm about to walk into the cage and I realize this is about to be a war. So I have to be ready. And I was like, I just felt this weird pressure for a second. And then for the first time in years in Islam, when you make a quick prayer, you put your hands up close to your face and you just say a quick prayer and then you go in. It's called making dua. And I made dua for me and for my opponent because
That you're an atheist at this point, and then what sparked you to say a prayer? And
I don't
like, how
know.
did you hear
I was
about
like,
dua?
so I've known about dua because I started off as a
Okay,
Muslim when I was
so you were
younger. I
raised
just
that way, but you just didn't like
Yeah,
participate. Okay,
yeah. And then I made the dua and I was like, God, please protect me and my opponent and make sure that we both get home to our families safely because I know what's about to happen.
yeah,
And he walks out and there was a little controversy because it was only my third fight. I wasn't supposed to take my shin guards off yet, but he came in with no shin guards and they're like, "Do you want a disqualification?" And I was like, "No, I don't want a disqualification. Take my shin guards off. I would rather fight than take a DQ win and go home empty-handed and
yeah.
all my hard work means nothing, right?" So yeah, as soon as I made that dua, I just this huge feeling of just acceptance just kind of just shrouded me. I I had a really hard weight cut and I was feeling it in my legs, but I didn't really consider it too much. I was like, okay, whatever you're feeling is, it's just a result of hard work. You only have to be strong for what, 11 minutes. You can do this, right? So he comes out and the fight starts and I swear in the so first round, it's competitive. I take him down, I get back up, or he gets back up. He pops my knee a couple times with a illegal submission at the time, but it's okay. It's like I don't think he meant any ill will by it, but we pop back up. He hits me, he clips me. End of first round. I'm a little discouraged, but I'm a little also on the fence about how I feel because I took him down, right? So I was like, okay, I can get him to the ground. And my coach was encouraging me all camp, and he only wanted me to wrestle. He never wanted me to strike. Um, throughout that first, like when I first sat on the stool, I was like, all right, fine. Like I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna wrestle him and choke him. I'm gonna submit him. My legs can't handle me going 3 rounds. I'm tired. My legs really suffered in that weight cut. So I get out in the second round and I shoot a takedown on him and he sprawls it and he doesn't let me get it. And I was like, all right, forget this. And he clinches me up. So then I throw 3 really hard uppercuts and a hook. And I know the uppercuts really hurt because he stumbled back. And when I threw the hook, he completely got out of the way. I was like, okay, that really hurt. And then he stops right after that combination and looks at me touches his lip like this, and then you see him get shocked like he's never seen his own blood before. And I was like, I got him now. So we went to war. And in that moment, I was like, maybe it's okay if I lose, and like maybe it's okay if I fail in this one because he's just more experienced. Maybe he's stronger than me. Maybe he's better than me. I don't know. And then I thought to myself, no, like just try your best and everything will come. And then I said in Arabic to myself, I said Bismillah, which means in the name of God. And then I just started and I just kept going and finished the second round, won the second round convincingly. Third round comes and I'm really tired now. And my coach had to snap me out of it. He was like, hey, listen, don't do that right now. He's like, you got to get your head back in the game. Go in, fight. You have 3 more minutes. I just need 3 more minutes from you. And I was like, okay. I go out, and right when I was thinking to myself, maybe this is my last combination that I can throw, because I was like, I was really exhausted, man. And right before the combination, I said again, in the name of God. I ended up knocking him out right after that. So it
Really?
was, yeah, yeah, yeah. It was actually crazy because not only was the feeling of winning like that crazy, but the feeling of knocking someone out. So up until that point, I dropped everyone I fought, but I never knocked anyone out like that. Like I never took their consciousness from them.
From my perspective, there's two things that I take out of that. I mean, as a Christian, one of the things that I've really been reflecting on, there's a quote in the Bible that says, "He who is first shall be last, and he who is last shall be first." Now, you say that to a fighter, it's like, no, I want to be number one. But in the middle of that fight, where what I sense is a sense of humility. It's okay if I lose this. To me, that taps into a power that is just like you're letting go of the outcome. You're putting it on God. Like if I'm supposed to win, I'm gonna win. And you started it out with respect for your opponent. Because I think that's because I love the reason I love hearing about this MMA and fighting is because again it just to me it's reflective of life. Like our I think our America's true enemies it's not each other, it's people who hate America. Like it's people who like they would love to love to see us make fools of ourselves, fight each other. And yeah, so that's what I sense with that humility. My 2 cents, I think humility won you that fight. But what do I know?
Yeah, well, humility definitely played a big. Humility is, I'm big on that because you you can be that arrogant Conor McGregor, and you can go around and talk bad to everyone and treat everyone beneath you, right? You can do that, and you might have some success. But at the end of the day, I'm not like concerned that being famous or being like, oh, this guy said this and then he backed it up. I'm not. No, I only care about backing up what's right, and I only care about backing up myself and making sure that I stand on the side that's right. Um, and part of that has to take myself out of the equation. Just because I want to win does not mean I can't wish well for my opponent. I
Yeah.
can't. It does not mean I have to want to kill him dead. You know what I mean? I do ultimately when I'm in there. I am gonna fight like I do because I that's the objective. He's trying to do it to me, but it doesn't mean that I wish him dead. I wish him nothing but health. I wish them all nothing but health, a good life, a prosperous life. I just and I ultimately pray for our protection in there. Um, a lot of people have told me, especially like other Muslim MMA fighters, like I've had them tell me, oh, like you need to throw that away. You need to throw that away. In Islam, in the time of war, they didn't say Bismillah. They said, and they didn't. So when you say Bismillah, you say Bismillah Rahman Rahim, which means in the name of God, the most compassionate and the most merciful. But in war, there's no mercy and there's no compassion. So what do you say? You say Bismillah Allahu Akbar, which means in the name of God, He is great. And like I agree, you do need to say like you do need to have that urge to attack and that urge to have no compassion or mercy, but
That's why it's a
that doesn't mean
paradox. That's why I love talking about it because it's a paradox. Because on one hand, you
yeah.
want to be humble, right? But like that sounds crazy to a foe. We're gonna be humble. You got to destroy this guy, right? So
Yeah, and
it's
and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hurt me when I've heard like my own like fellow Muslims like tell me like, no, you need to throw that away. Like it's bothered me, and it's kept me like away from people for a little. Not just that, it's just I myself have become a little like introverted. I used to like really putting myself out there, but now I find myself more focused on my craft and more on the idea of being able to control outcomes, because as long as I know I can, I feel like even in the sport where you can't have mercy, I can, you know? And
I think that's
that's
what makes a
based
good
on,
king. It makes a good judge. It makes a good man. Is someone who has that balance between
yeah,
discipline, because you need to be disciplined. You need to be like a strong motherfucker, but at the same time, you have to have, and that's something that I've reflected on. How do you have an open heart and a strong mind? You need to have a strong mind and a strong body, but you need to have an open heart. And like that if it's just open heart, then you'll just get walked all over. You just, this kind of like, it's kind of like the way of the world. There's a quote, the heart is wicked, who can see it, right? Follow your heart is the way of the world. I'm just going to follow my heart, whatever I feel like. It's all feelings. But if you're just thinking from, judgment, you're like a dictator. You don't have any kindness or compassion to you. I think a good father and I think a good fighter has the ability to break you down to build you up.
yeah.
You know,
And fighting, it's a beautiful sport in the sense that it takes two to make an incredible fight, but it takes one to make a masterclass, right? So what do I mean by that? Two to make an incredible fight. Two people who have the same idea and the same mentality, that embrace the same thing, that go in there. When you see that, you know that they both made that pact with themselves, where it's like, whatever happens, happens. If I lose this, it's okay, but I have to fight and I have to try my best at the very least. That's what makes the great fights. The ones that are one-sided, those are what you call master classes. I don't know if you've watched the UFC card this
I
last
haven't. You're
weekend.
actually going to be my ticket into learning more about this, actually, selfishly. So I wanted to,
No, no, don't worry about it. There was there was there was a fight over the weekend. It was Sean O'Malley and Cheeto Vera. And Sean O'Malley is, the big loudmouth, likes to do little skits and funny. Nothing wrong with it. He's still somewhat respectful. Um, but he still likes to make jokes, and he likes to be a little bit of a loudmouth. So over the weekend, he fought this guy Cheeto Vera. Cheeto Vera didn't show up. We'll put it that way. They fought before Cheeto Vera won. They're saying it was mostly a fluke. It is what it is, whatever it might be. But that was a masterclass. That was what you would call a masterclass. That was a completely one-sided fight. You want to see a fight that'll blow your socks off? It's Gilbert Burns and Hamzat Chimaev.
okay.
That fight was absolutely crazy, because
Can you find it
leading
on
up until,
YouTube?
you can find it on YouTube, I believe.
Okay.
I'll send you the link after this.
Okay.
Um, that fight, Gilbert Burns, there was this rising star, young hungry wolf named Hamza Chimaev, coming along, terrorizing the 170-pound weight class, right? And there was a veteran at the top. He was at the time ranked number 2. His name's Hamza. Hamza, his name's Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns was counted out the whole week. Why? Because Hamza, all the way up until Gilbert Burns, had every fight end in a finish, whether it was a knockout or a submission. And you watched them both get in there and you watched them both fight, and you could tell how bad they wanted it, the both of them. You could tell how bad the both of them wanted it, because none of them were giving an inch. Hamza got dropped in that fight. Leading up to that fight, he's never been dropped. He's never even been touched really in there. There was actually a statistic when he first got into the UFC where he ate the least punches out of anyone in 2 fights. He fought 2 fights in the UFC in 1 week, and he threw 116 strikes and landed 116 strikes and only got hit twice.
Wow.
When he fought Gilbert Burns, he won. It was by split decision, and everybody thought that it was a robbery, or a lot of people thought it was a robbery. where
Really?
the judges don't go your way, and they don't go the way that it's supposed to go sometimes. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I personally with those two getting back to the point of masterclass versus having two dogs fighting in there. The two
Yeah.
dogs fighting in there, they're wishing well for each other even afterwards. That's my honest opinion. When you have a masterclass, nobody's wishing well for each other.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'll check that out. I had two other questions. Um, the first one, kind of just to give anyone listening kind of some proactive advice. Where would be a good place for people to start? Maybe if they're like me, like going to the gym, but like, you know what, I'd like to kind of get involved. Where is a good place to start? Where maybe some generic advice, like boxing? Would it be boxing? Would it be MMA? Would it be what would be a good place to, you know, just get familiar? Maybe even self defense. Maybe somebody who doesn't want to be a fighter, but they want to be a formidable force in their life.
Let me just start off by saying when you go into a MMA gym or a jiu-jitsu gym or a boxing gym or any of that, you don't have to go in there with the intent of wanting to be a world champion. You don't have to. Fighting, it's funny. There was a champion. His name was Sean Strickland, champion for 185. He said that fighting is the common man's sport. Why is it that? Because anyone can come out of nowhere with no experience, but have that talent and have that urge to perform in that atmosphere, and they can be great at it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's why in fighting, a lot of the times, where does humility serve you when somebody like that comes along? Because you don't the whole a lot of it is a lot of people don't focus on their sheet of paper. They look at somebody else's. You know what I mean? They're like,
Yeah.
why does he have this? Why does he have that? Let me tell you, if you want to start fighting, you gotta one. I think you got to get rid of all of that, because there are people who are going to learn things faster than you. There are people who are going to be exponentially stronger than you. There are people who are going to be faster than you. There are people who are going to be smarter than you, and that's okay, because you didn't go in there for what they're good at. It's a competitive scene, yes, but competitive and only in the sense of, okay, when I'm competing, that's the only time it's competitive. Everywhere else, you have to put your ego aside. So as long as you're able to put your ego aside, you can go into any gym. Me personally, if I wanted to start off, if I was starting fresh, I would look at what is it that I like. If Do I like punching and kicking? Okay, if I like punching and kicking, I'm gonna look for a karate or a Muay Thai school, a really good karate or a really good Muay Thai school. If I myself don't like impact too much and I like more of controlling the atmosphere and controlling the combat, I would look at wrestling and jiu-jitsu, because those are all based on controlling your opponent. You know what I mean? If you can control your opponent, you can control the outcome of what happens. But for me, yeah, I would say my personal favorite is Muay Thai. I guess it's just I like the idea of striking, and I'm okay with the idea of getting struck. I like it. Um, and why is it that I like Muay Thai specifically? I wasn't very good at Muay Thai. I had my first Muay Thai fight, actually. I've had 8 fights. My first Muay Thai fight I had last month. Yeah, last month. Yeah, I had it last month, man. And it took me forever to get that fight. So I would say if you want to start off, just have a good attitude, because especially if you go into a jiu-jitsu gym, you're not gonna meet anybody who's really pardon my language when I say this, a scumbag. You're not gonna
Yeah.
meet any really actually, when you go into any realm of martial arts, really, you're not gonna really meet any scumbags. And if you do, everybody else in that atmosphere also thinks the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that person's probably on their way out, because assholes don't live in this sport. They don't last in this sport.
Mm.
That's just what I believe. I believe it, especially in a place where it involves so
I
much
believe it
self
too. That's why
betterment.
it can seem like a paradox because, that's why I go back to the original points. Like the strongest men are the calm men. So
Hmm.
when you're fighting, and I'm sure you would agree, when you're fighting, you can't, like you said before, you can't be comparing to other people. There's going to be stronger people. You're fighting against yourself, so you got to meet
Hmm.
yourself where you're at. you know. So and I think when you're 100% with that, you can excel like crazy. If you're trying to fit in, or 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I'll say, yeah. I think so long as you're focused on the right thing, martial arts will always be a beautiful thing in life, right? It'll always be something that'll guide you on the right path, and it'll always be something that makes you do the right thing, because like when you feel that level of like ability, y- you know, uh, I used to bounce. I want to say right before COVID, right before quarantine hit. I used to bounce, and I was training really hard up until I was bouncing to help pay for like my diet and stuff. And I realized, like, when I would see all of these bar fights and everybody going loose and crazy and just trying to prove something, I was like, wow, if I ever looked like this, I would hope, like, if I could look at my younger self and I looked anything like that, I would smack the shit out of myself. You know what I mean? I would be so disappointed. I would be so disappointed because you look at that kind of behavior and it's just shameless and disgusting. And it's weak behavior. It's actually weak behavior. There was one instance in bouncing I can particularly recall where there was a very big dude who was trying to, get up on one of my coworkers who was also a bouncer. This guy wasn't a very well built man. He was mostly there just to collect a paycheck. And, as we all were. But he didn't really have any ability. He just looked like a bigger man. He actually got taken down. And when I saw that, I had to take the guy down. I got on top of him. And you can do whatever you want from there when you take someone down, right? But
Yeah.
why is it that I didn't act? Because I looked at it and I was like, wow, this man is really weak. It'd be really wrong of me to hit him.
Mm.
It would be really wrong of me to hit him, actually. And it turned out he had like a little bit of wrestling background. That's why you could tell by the way he took the guy down, though. Like, oh, okay. Like, he doesn't know how to fight or anything, but he knows how to wrestle. So he just ended up taking a bouncer down. I was like, well, this guy's like significantly weaker than me. He doesn't know how to wrestle better than I do because I just got on top of him. So, like,
Yeah.
it would be wrong of me to capitalize on this moment while I'm on top. It would be wrong. So yeah, I think just to go back to the question, I'm sorry I
No,
sidetracked on
no,
that a little.
it's all good.
I think if you want to go out and pursue martial arts in any way, boxing is a martial art, Muay Thai is a martial art, Taekwondo is a martial art, Jiu Jitsu is a martial art. Anything that involves you participating in physical combat against somebody else is a martial art. You just have to know how to look at it. So go in there with good intentions, go in there with no other idea other than to make yourself better and stronger, and you will get better and stronger.
Respect.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fairly straightforward. And my second question for you is, where can people find you? I'd like to promote your fights,
I
any
appreciate
social
that.
media, and I can post the links below. So if
Nice.
you'd like to, where people can find you.
Next fight is May 4th, guys. So if anyone wants to watch, it's May 4th. I think it's in honestly, I'm not even sure. I kind of just accepted the matchup, don't know where it is.
It's all good. I can post it
Yeah,
when you know, or where people
yeah,
can find you because you'll be posting it on your socials, right? So
yeah. It's May 4th, and my social I typically just follow the fighter page. It's N Gokeh MMA, Ngokeh MMA.
okay,
And that's my Instagram, and that's really all I'm on. I don't really use much else, so yeah.
yeah, it's fine. So I'll point people in that direction. Nart, thanks for joining me, brother. It's good to talk to you again.
Mike, it's always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. It's been too long, man. We got to get together sometime, brother.
Absolutely, brother. All right, talk to
Yeah,
you
man.
later.
Talk to you later.